Hey, Mike.
We got a show to do.
Well, we do? Is it that time already?
Yeah, it's that time.
Okay.
It is time for Wake the Kids, Phone the Neighbors, a Letterman tribute podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get it.
Ladies and gentlemen, Wake the Kids, Phone the Neighbors.
Welcome to Wake the Kids, Phone the Neighbors, a Letterman tribute podcast. I am Mike.
And I'm Rusty.
Hey, Rusty, we're back again.
Yeah, we are. Lost an icon this week.
We did.
Yeah, we did. A TV mainstay, Betty White.
Betty White, right before her
White.
100th birthday.
Yeah, birthday January 17th. She was
Yeah.
born in 22, so yeah, it would be her 100th.
They said that that People magazine already had a cover made of Betty White celebrating her 100th birthday. Or
Well,
whatever,
yeah, it's
and they had
kinda-
just released it.
Yeah, I imagine that there's a lot of news outlets. It's kind of like the Queen. When the Queen passes, like
Yeah.
BBC has everything ready to go.
Yeah.
It's like that with I think like American television. Whenever
Yeah.
Betty White, they got the news, everybody had everything prepared and ready to go.
I would imagine. Yeah, Betty White was a big deal, and I think that you and I talking about her and her husband Alan Ludden, we found out some things that we did not realize that ties them to the Letterman universe.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't realize that Betty White was married to a quote unquote. I wouldn't call him an executive, but he was a producer and stuff like that. He was a higher up in television at this time due
Definitely.
to his. He's an elder statesman in TV. So they were doing a tour where they were out in Indianapolis. I think it was when Dave was doing radio and TV at the time, so
Right.
they had happened to go on his radio show,
Right.
and Ludden thought he was hilarious. He was like, "You've got to be one of the funniest kids I've met," and he's like, "There's potential for you anywhere in Hollywood," kind of thing. So Alan Ludden kind of like slides David Letterman the phone number, kind of thing. Said,
Yeah.
"Hey, if you're ever out west, give me a call," and that's kind of what led to his successes, I guess, I don't want to take all the credit away from Dave, but it did lead to his successes in television. It gave him TV opportunities that I don't think that he otherwise would have got so quickly and so readily. He probably would have got them eventually, but the quickness in which that allowed him to enter into that atmosphere, because, of course, Dave was in every little game show there was at the time. Yeah,
Yeah.
he did guest bits on every NBC game show.
Yeah, and Dave talks about how Alan Ludden brought him on to, what was the one where they were making fun of people?
I think it was Password or something, wasn't
No,
it?
it was, oh gosh, what was it called?
Oh,
Smart Alex. That's
Smart
what it was.
Alex. Okay, Smart Alex.
So Alan brought him on to something called the Smart Alex. They filmed one episode. It was kind of a pilot, and Dave refers to it as the show where they would bring people on and make fun of them.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so Alan Mr. Ludden in an interview later with Letterman talks about how, the show didn't get picked up, he didn't get picked up, but they found Letterman and signed him to a deal.
Yeah,
NBC did.
Yeah, that was definitely a good discovery. I mean, like I said, Alan Ludden was kind of ingrained in NBC by this point from doing game shows for so many years. So, yeah, I mean, I'm sure his word was gold to the executive.
I'm glad you're with us. You are here with us. And with when I say us, I mean three of my favorite funny people.
Thanks
and
a
then,
lot.
And then my favorite lady in the whole world. Now, that's nice, isn't it?
Favorite
That's two.
funny lady.
And she's funny, but she's also my favorite lady. But this young man here, this innocent-looking young man, this childlike creature that I first met when I was in Indianapolis visiting a radio station.
Years and years ago in Indianapolis.
Not too long ago.
No, it was about 74.
You talk about your days in Indianapolis.
Well, of course, my mom, we all know about her in Indianapolis, is the only licensed topless barber in that city. And, of course, that's pretty much what put it on the map.
Yeah, I see. That's it. All right. Benny, when did I first meet you?
I don't remember.
I don't.
What I love most about you,
What?
I'm always trying to think of what it is I love about you.
Yeah.
I think.
What did you think
It's
of?
your illusion of the first time when you come bursting through that door and you're so surprised to find all of us here. Where
Well-
did you think we'd be?
I thought you'd be here. I just
But it's
was
always
glad
like,
to.
oh.
I'm glad to be.
The man was a game show legend. Password. That's all you really got to say, because it was Password, Password Plus, all that stuff.
Yeah, all the other passwords.
Card Sharks, Match Game. I mean, if you know anything about TV game shows, all of these ring bells for you. Liars Club, To Tell the Truth. I mean, just on so many different game shows. I think they were good friends with Dinah Shore and Merv Griffin and people like that.
Okay.
You know, anybody in that area
area.
in that time frame, you know, you're talking 50s, 60s, 70s. And then Ludden died in what,
81.
81.
Yeah, I was watching some David Letterman clips, and Alan Ludden kind of did what a lot of people of the day did. They take the standards and they go put them on their own album. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Jim Nabors did it.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people
Spock.
did it. Spock did it. Leonard Nimoy, yeah, he did it.
No, my next guest is the host of the television show Password Plus. But what you don't know is that he's also a singing star, a recording star. Please welcome Mr. Alan Ludden. You're looking very well, very fit.
You clean up very nicely.
Thank you very much. You know, we about the third day
I
we
think
did.
you're putting me on.
No.
Don't you have a feeling that this is a put on, that he's really making sport of my ability as a singer?
No.
I think you are. Yes, I do. Don't you? Have you heard the jokes he made about my album, which I did very serious? It wasn't a joke when I did it.
Let me explain something here. The third day of the show,
Yes.
we played a cut off your album.
Yeah.
And
Nobody take it.
well, that's right, but somebody did take it, is the problem. We no longer have the album. It was so highly thought of that it is now, actually, I gave it to a gentleman. I said, here you go, hold this. He misunderstood me, and he took it home and is now, in the privacy of his own home, let's hope, enjoying, it's just one of those, no.
Yeah, but you see, when they called, I knew that you were going to make light of my abilities as a singer, and so I said, I don't want to sing. You should have heard that.
Alan Ludden, ladies and gentlemen.
David, you hear this? This is your Frank Owens. You hear how he can play this pretty music? He doesn't play that rock and roll stuff this time of the morning. He can play pretty music. Let him. Listen, he's got talents that have not been exploited. This is a song by George Gershwin, lyrics by Ira Gershwin. I could cry salty tears. Where have I been all these years?
Which is kind of funny because we'll get to Leonard Nimoy and Regis Philbin's connection to Betty White, because there's a connection to Betty White with those two.
Oh, nice.
So
basically, you know, we're sitting here talking about Alan Ludden, and the thing is, you can't really talk about Betty White without Alan Ludden, because they were such a couple. I mean, you could tell that A, they were truly in love with each other, and B, they stuck to the end.
Yeah. Once ever, like, cause she was married twice before to a guy I couldn't even name him.
Yeah.
It wasn't something I really cared too much in my research about her ex-husbands. So she'd been married twice previously, and then she kind of got married to Alan Ludden, meeting him through NBC and stuff, because that ends up being her
Through the game show,
the game show portal, the game
yeah.
show, and then at the time she was also doing started off Jack Parr, and then of course to Johnny Carson, and then to Dave and everybody.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I guess we'll wind it back the clock a little bit for Betty.
Please do.
And so Betty was born in 22.
Okay.
She was born to a homemaker and an electrician. Not an electrician. He was he worked for a power company. Her father did.
All right.
And they lived in Oak Park, Illinois at the time. But when she was a child, and a year old actually.
There's that Midwest thing again.
Yeah, Midwest. Yeah, Oak Park, Illinois. Well, they move out to California, and this is right before the Depression era.
Right.
So the Depression era hits, and they're kind of broke. Her father, goes to building cheap crystal radios, which a crystal radio is a radio
like the ones in a kit.
Yeah, it's like a kit.
Yeah.
So it uses the power from the radio signal to power the radio.
Yeah.
So you don't have to have a power source.
You ever built one of those?
No, I've never built one.
Yeah,
I always
I had
thought it was neat to get a kit.
I built one, I think, when I was a Boy Scout.
I've seen the in the magazines, or not the magazines, in the old comic books where they have you go to the back and you could send offer stuff. You see it on the back on the comic books for sure. Yeah,
draw this turtle and get you a crystal radio.
Yeah. So that's how her her dad was funding her, funding their life, which is kind of ironic.
Yeah.
He's building radios, which she would go on to star in radio before she ever went to TV. So actually, she's at high school at Beverly Hills High. She graduates this is 1939 now, and she wanted to be a forest ranger.
Really?
Yeah, it's really funny. I thought that was funny, but it's you see it in her career though. Her love for animals. Her entire career. Anytime Dave and Alan are talking, or anytime Dave's talking to Betty, he always asks about animals.
Right.
He's like, "How are the animals doing?" Or "Is there any animals I should be concerned about?" You know? Is there anything I should be concerned about?
Anything about to expire? Yeah.
So women couldn't be rangers in the 30s,
Really?
40s.
Wow.
So she was denied being able to go do ranger stuff. So she wanted to pursue a career in writing.
Yeah.
So
she was you talk about a quick wit.
Oh, her wit is.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, it's
which makes a good writer.
Even in her age, even in her 60s, 70s, 80s, and even in her 90s, even within the last decade,
great
she
timing
retained it.
too.
Oh yeah,
timing.
Not only that, it's razor sharp.
Yes,
razor sharp.
Yes. Yeah, it. I can imagine that there were probably a lot of men and women comedians that were probably a little put off by her because of her sharp wit, and she seemed to kind of command a room also.
Yeah. Now there's definitely some headbutts that happen with NBC that eventually lead to her switching over to CBS later on in life, because she does the Macy's Day Parade on CBS later on in life, and then she does, I think Golden Girls was CBS.
Golden Girls was NBC.
It was?
Yeah.
It was?
Well,
I guess she bounced back and forth
NBC.
between the two then.
Yeah.
I guess she just bounced back and forth, whoever paid the most.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Whoever paid her the most.
Yeah, Golden Girls is the one that everybody remembers her for, but her career was so much more than that.
Oh, yeah, so much more. So this we get to the beginning of pretty much the early parts of her career. So 3 months after she graduates high school, there's an experimental TV show that's going on in 39, and the TV show, I couldn't find a name to it 39. Or anything. Yeah, this is before the war and everything breaks out in the United States. So the war's already started at this point, but we're not involved yet. So she's doing modeling work as well at this time.
She's beautiful.
She was gorgeous. So she's a model. She's
very
doing,
much that girl next door type.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Betty, the girl next door, Betty.
Exactly, yeah.
So she does this thing with her classmate on experimental TV. They actually sing and dance to the Merry Widow Waltz, which is which is a waltz,
sure,
an aria,
it's
if you will.
Named well then. If it's a waltz.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And so she's doing modeling work, and then she actually her first professional acting job was with the Bliss Hayden Little Theater, which is so far out of date. I really couldn't find much on that.
I'm sure it was just a regional.
It was probably
whatever.
a regional.
Yeah.
It might not even been regional. It might have just been a city theater.
Sure, absolutely. We've got those here.
Yeah.
Nobody outside of here would know.
Nobody would. Nobody here probably knows.
No.
Yeah,
Well, that's true too.
Yeah, not a lot of people know. Yeah,
That's right.
Not too many people interested in the arts here. So World War II starts. Boom.
Yeah.
Puts a huge, cog in everybody's everybody's pathway.
A
So
kibosh.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure. Sorry.
So she joins.
I used the word Donnybrook yesterday.
Oh, Donnybrook.
I think as I get older, I'm starting to inherit those words.
Have you ever seen Letterkenny?
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's where I got it from.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
Absolutely.
So she joins, which is common for women at this time. It's called the American Women's Voluntary Services, which is one of the few organizations that ran for women in the United States during World War II, which allowed them to help in like a supply capacity, like at home.
Right.
So she was driving trucks at this time, driving big, military supply trucks.
She was
through
literally
Hollywood and stuff like that.
She was literally Rosie the Riveter.
Rosie the Riveter, yeah. Well, I mean, even the Queen drove ambulances. You know what I mean? So
did she really?
Yeah, even the Queen drove ambulances in World War II. They took a role. Yeah, everybody takes a role in that time frame. Nowadays, probably not so much, but back in them days, yeah. Well, I mean, even the princes have both fought in Afghanistan and Iraq.
That's true.
So they all have to perform their civic duty more so than any other human being does. They have to perform their civic duty.
And yet, we live in a time when DoorDash executives gripe because they have to deliver food like everybody else.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And then royalties going to war and stuff like that.
That's right.
Yeah. So she drives a supply truck, and then boom, war over kind of thing. That was just like one of the most upsetting points of her career. Betty ended the war.
She ended the war.
Yeah, she
That's
did.
right.
She told Truman. She called Truman. Said Hitler's dead. Go ahead and let the bombs go on Japan. War's over. I'm ready to get back to doing what I do.
Right. Yeah, get me on a game show. Stat.
Yeah. So after the war, she wanted to do movies.
Yeah.
But in the day, she wasn't movie pretty. She was pretty, like you said, she's the girl next door, but she wasn't like movie pretty. So back in them days, talent didn't matter as much as looks.
It's true.
And
Very true.
It's you can see now that looks and talent.
Just read the words on the page. Yeah,
that's what it was.
Yeah.
Early TV, they wanted people that were pretty, young, and if you weren't young, we wanted to keep you as young as possible, as many drugs as we could pump into you. And if you can't stay awake, here's a drug. If you got to go to sleep, here's a drug. And that's what it was at that time. That's what Hollywood was. Sure. And so she kind of dodged that bullet. I feel like that's more of a dodged bullet than anything for her because it didn't hurt her career. But they told her she was not photogenic enough. That was the quote.
So she went to TV.
Words. Actually, she goes to radio.
Oh, okay. She had a face for radio.
So that's what that was her quote. She goes, "Well, if I'm not photogenic enough for TV, I gotta have a face for radio."
That's right. Yeah.
So at this time in radio, she's just taking whatever job she can get. You know, $5 for this show, $5 for this show.
You know, I hate to interrupt you. I'm sorry, but it's so weird because like when I think of like let's say Leave It to Beaver. You know, the mother on there, she's the same type as like Betty White.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't really understand that.
She just ran across a bad executive.
Yeah, she ran across a bad executive. Yeah. And you got to think this is still the 40s. Yeah. This is right after World War II. This is like 45, 46, 47, 48, around that time. And I mean, you still have the Humphrey Bogarts and the Cary Grants and all that are ruling the scene. So there was as beautiful as Betty White is in the movies at that time, there were some knockouts that she was trying to compete with for jobs. So, yeah, of course, she was overshadowed by those. So like I said, she goes to radio, takes whatever job she can get. Well, she makes an appearance on 3 radio shows around this time. She made some appearances on Blondie, which is from the comic strip, the radio program from the comic strip.
Don't touch that dial. Listen to... Yes, folks, it's another half hour of fun with Blondie and Dagwood, brought to you by Super Suds. The new Super Suds with Pyree, the soap that makes all your clothes look newer.
What's new, what's new, what's new today, oh lady? Listen while I say it's new Super Suds with Pyree makes all your clothes.
Then there was The Great Gildersleeve, which is a comedy, which I know nothing about.
It was huge.
Yeah, I know it was big. I did the research.
It was like Gildersleeve and Amos and Andy were like the big ones.
Kraft presents The Great Gildersleeve. The Kraft Cheese Company, who also bring you Bing Crosby every Thursday night, present each week at this time Harold Perry as The Great Gildersleeve, written by Leonard L. Levinson.
Well, whenever we get into the comedy podcast, I'll be able to go listen to and actually appreciate these things because we'll be able to pick like certain things we do as we piece things together.
We're going to lock Rusty in a room and just let him listen to old comedy.
Well, I've done it before. I had like this weird obsession when I was like 21, 22 with like old music from the 30s and 40s and old radio programs from that time frame too. But I was more into the dramas and stuff, less comedy. I was listening to like War of the World, Orson Welles kind of stuff, that kind of stuff. Yeah. And This Is Your FBI. That was one I listened to, but that was one that she was in as well. She was in that. That was one of the bigger ones that she was in as far as dramas go, which got a nod from J. Edgar Hoover.
Really?
Yeah, they actually he tipped his hat to him and said, "Man, y'all are doing a great job. Y'all are doing a great job."
Tipped his floppy garden hat.
Yeah, his floppy garden hat. But yeah, he approved. He said, "Yep, you're good." Yeah. So that takes us to
that's a big deal.
Huge deal. That's a huge deal. Those shows, being nodded by J. Edgar Hoover.
I'm saying for J. Edgar Hoover at the time.
For him to come from his high tower to tell you that you did a good job. Yeah, the big conspiracy guy. Yeah. Crazy guy.
Check the seam on my stockings.
Yeah, weird guy.
Sure. The Equitable Life Assurance Society presents This Is Your FBI. This is Your FBI, the official broadcast from the files of the Federal Bureau of Investigation.
So she gets offered her own radio show through this. And this is one of many renditions of what would be the Betty White Show. So the Betty White Show starts with radio, and that name will follow her for a few renditions and different. Actually, ends up the last rendition being a sitcom.
Oh, okay.
For like
Isn't it
14
funny?
or 15 episodes. We'll get to that part.
Isn't it funny that at that time everything was named after somebody?
It's the Betty White Show from Hollywood. This portion brought to you by RDX, the safe way to lose ugly fat, yet still eat what you want. And Geritol, America's #1 tonic that helps you feel stronger fast. Now here's Betty White.
It's time to say hello again and start our show again and sing a song or two for all of you.
They used their names because it was, if you're watching TV and you're scrolling through and you know who Johnny Carson
that's
is,
true.
and you're like, oh, well, it's the something variety hour. Well, I don't know who's on that.
Right.
I don't know who that is.
Right.
Yeah, so I feel like that's what it was. So
So people were stupid, is what you're saying.
well, yeah, I mean, essentially,
Yeah.
I mean, the common man, common for a reason.
Yeah, that's true.
So
Please keep listening to this.
hey, please, common or not, please listen.
Yes, please.
So she gets her first TV job in '49 from her radio show. So somebody kind of saw it or something, or listened to it rather, couldn't see the radio. So Al Jarvis is where she gets her start. She's a sidekick with Al Jarvis on what I think is probably one of the most rigorous schedules for what I've ever heard of for like live television. Really rigorous schedule. So it was a comedy variety show called Hollywood on Television.
Okay.
And 6 days a week.
Oof.
5 hours a day.
Wow.
All live.
Oh,
one of the first, like,
she was one of the first streamers.
First streamer. Yeah, she was streaming. It was like one of the first
That's right,
live streams.
yeah.
And that was in 1949. So
Holy
I couldn't
crud.
imagine that kind of rigorous of a schedule. And that's to early TV. 49, 50. There's probably not a million TVs in America.
5 hours a day, 6 days a week.
Yeah, there's probably not even
Yeesh.
5 million TVs yet at this point.
God.
I mean, I don't know.
What do you do
the
for
count
bathroom
is.
breaks?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Well, that's the thing is what
She'll be right back.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, what she would later on go to like say is that this really like helped her with that quick wit.
Oh, I would imagine.
And everything, because she's on TV, and they did this for 4 years.
You got to be floundering at some point, like because the
drowning.
words have to just disappear at some point.
Well, for 4, you got to think 6 days a week, 4 years,
my God.
5 hours a day, all live. You got to be on the ball,
It's
and
a
this
gauntlet.
is days before we had delays and censors and all this. They had to be
You gotta
they
be
had
on
to
your
be
tip-top.
network ready
Yeah.
24/7,
Yeesh, goodness gracious.
or
That's a lot.
6'5".
6'5".
But still, that's a lot of hours for live TV. Come on,
Yeah.
5 hours for
Yeah.
live TV.
Well, and you figure if they're on the air for 5 hours, how much prep time is there? There's probably an hour before, hour after. So you're looking at 6-7 hours.
6-7
a day,
hours, yeah, full work day. Where
6 days a week.
That's not normal for Hollywood.
When do you eat a sandwich?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. With lunch break, like,
Yeah, no kidding.
probably not. So in '51, this is where she gets her first Emmy nomination.
Oh,
is
wow.
out of this show, so she gets her
Okay.
first Emmy nomination. But at this time,
Wait.
Emmys are so new.
Wait.
They did it for a body of work.
Go back. So this was on TV, Hollywood on TV.
Yes,
So
Hollywood
was-
on television.
This was live TV.
Oh yeah. We'd segued to TV.
Okay,
So this is our
okay.
This is our first
Oh, my
TV job,
goodness.
1949.
That's even worse, honestly.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It was on TV too.
I think if we
so-
had to, you and I could sit in this room for 5 hours and just talk about stuff, right?
yeah, easy.
But not for 4 years. And if we were being,
I mean, it depends on how much. it depends on how much you got to say, Mike.
if we were being filmed,
could.
that's a whole different thing.
Yeah, that's a whole different thing.
Man, you can't pick your nose. You can't do anything. You know,
You can't clear your throat like you want
my
to. or-
Goodness, yeah. Okay, sorry. All right, we're at
No,
the
you're
Emmys.
good. We're good. Yeah, so we're at the Emmys. 51. At this time, the Emmys are really new. I want to say this might be like the first year, or
Really?
second year of Emmys.
Yeah.
And at this time, they were doing Emmys for a body of work.
Right,
They weren't
sure.
listing shows for Emmys.
Okay.
So she was up against some heavier television personalities. So she, of course, didn't win that because her body of work at that time was just
It was radio.
radio and
Yeah.
then Hollywood on television,
Yeah.
which was, just for the 6 days a week, 5 hours a day, they should have gave her something.
No kidding. You should
Shit,
get a
give her a
sandwich
medal or a
something,
sandwich,
yeah.
a bag lunch with an apple in it.
Goodness.
Something. So she actually
Apple.
ends up becoming the full host of the show in 52.
Yeah.
And while this is going on,
This is Hollywood on television.
Hollywood on
She's
television.
the full host.
so she gets the
Okay.
full-blown hosting position at this time.
That's probably what you want.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you probably get to introduce the guy spinning plates, Topo Gigio, and then get to
Yeah.
walk away for 10 minutes,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's good stuff. So around this time in '52, she creates they create a TV show, and it's a local production. So this is so she's all local right now.
This is in L.A.
Yeah, this is in L.A. KCOP TV in L.A. And there's a cool thing about that I'm going to get to here in just a second on KCOP. While they're doing it's a live local production. So what it is there was a skit character called Elizabeth in the Hollywood for Television TV program.
Okay.
So she takes this skit character and creates a television show called Life with Elizabeth.
Okay.
Betty White in Life with Elizabeth, featuring Del Moore. Number 1 in the life of Elizabeth occurred during one of her money-spending spells. Now, this doesn't happen very often, but when it does, and Alvin finds out, he has to be very carefully handled.
So, the cool thing about this show is the first year of the show was all local. It was a local live production. Betty White, queen of live TV, live production, and it was a situational comedy, live production, and she
a live situation comedy.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Boy, oh boy.
So she gets picked up in syndication in '53. Oh. So NBC picked it up and drops it nationally.
Okay.
Well, there's a lot of controversy around this show. There was an African-American tap dancer that she had on her show, a guy named Arthur Duncan. Mm-hmm. Well, once NBC picked it up nationally, at the time you had the Jim Crow South, which, they're rattling their sabers and waving their Confederate flags, saying, this is unacceptable for our television stations, and we're going to boycott it or threaten to boycott it, or
because
whatever
you're in all
it was.
these small markets now and all this stuff all over the U.S.
Yeah. So all these TV stations in the South were just saying, well, we're going to boycott your show. Yeah, Alabama, Mississippi. There's a couple of states we could name for sure. Yeah, I'm sure they weren't happy down there. So what ends up happening is Betty White pretty much gives him 2 middle fingers and says, "I'm sorry," but he stays.
Yeah.
Live with it is what she said. Yeah. So she actually gives him more airtime after that. Yeah. And NBC, in effort to mitigate, the Southern sentiment at the time, they kept moving the show around to different time slots. They just bounced her around to different time slots. And then, of course, with the racial tension, she kind of struggled to get sponsors for the show. Yeah, and if anybody doesn't know about TV back then, if you didn't have a sponsor, the advertisements didn't work the same way they work now. You didn't sell ads. The sponsor came in and gave you money for your show, which also meant that they could come in and also try to change how you do your show creatively.
Sure.
Which is
it could be the Chesterfield cigarettes hour or something.
Yeah, absolutely.
That kind of thing. Yeah.
Libby vegetables.
And you're still talking about a time when people were on TV in blackface. I mean, that was still going on.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The Al Jolson stuff was still like that. The Al Jolson bit was still being ran through TV at this time.
Amos and Andy is a big one. Yeah, that was a big one.
Yeah, I mean, this is only the 50s. Yeah. So we're not even in the early 60s yet. We're still in the mid to late 50s at this point. So yeah, it's before the big civil rights movement of the 60s and stuff for sure. But so this takes us into the 50s. So we're in the 50s now. We're in 57, 58. We're all the way almost in the 60s, which is where she gets her stride, really, I feel like. Where she starts to run is the 60s. So she's already solidified herself with these little TV shows and stuff like that. But it seems, again, it's kind of like with Dave, there was this wealth of talent, but no real place to put her kind of thing. So in 57, 58, there was a terrible show, absolutely bombed, critically bombed. Okay. Bombed, as far as TV goes, period. So it was a good time and a bad time for her, because at this time she meets Lucille Ball.
What was that show that bombed?
Oh, sorry. It's called Date with Angels.
You have a date with the angel. Starring Betty White, Bill Williams as Gus Angel.
presented by the Plymouth Dealers of America, who proudly sell and service the beautiful new Plymouth for 1957.
The time? About 5 months after Vicky and Gus Angel were married. The main character? One little tree. The plot? You can't see the tree for the people.
Okay. All right.
So
the trouble was finding the angels. I mean,
the trouble was finding the angels. Yeah,
we had plenty of people ready to date.
Plenty of people ready to date. They didn't have any angels to date. Yeah,
sure,
absolutely.
Sure. Yeah.
They were in the outfield. So
they built it. They didn't come.
Yeah, they didn't come.
Yeah, sure. Stupid.
So they do the Date with the Angel show.
Yeah.
And she says that's the only time she ever wanted to leave a show.
Really?
It's the only time in her career that she ever just didn't feel like that's where she should be.
Yeah.
And a lot of it had to do, again, with the sponsor thing like we were talking about. So the sponsor tried to change the creative direction of the show.
Man, nothing has changed in Hollywood, has
Nothing
it?
has changed.
Nothing has changed.
So the sponsor comes in, tries
Money
to change the
leads.
creative direction. She's not happy about it.
Yeah.
So the show gets canceled. Well, she's on contract for 13 weeks.
Wow.
So what do? Boom. The Betty White Show.
God, it's just like Letterman.
They only did it for 13 weeks though. So it's really funny. So they revived the Betty White Show, put it on air.
Right.
Let her do a little 13-week deal, and then it goes off the air again. And just to fulfill the contract for that TV show, which was really silly. I couldn't understand why they would spend so much money
Well, it's
to
probably
do that.
cheaper to do that than to get her out of her contract. Plus, it was still content, you know?
Oh, actually, I did confuse some things here.
Oh.
Okay, so I just had to fix it so I don't get killed in an email. So it says Life with Elizabeth was 52, sorry.
Okay.
And then the Betty White Show was 52 to 54. That's the
Got
show.
it.
They were both actually picked up in syndication. So I was right about that.
Okay.
So NBC did actually pick up The Life with Elizabeth, but there was a second show, The Betty White Show. That was the first television rendition of The Betty White Show.
Okay.
And that was from 52 to 54. That's the one that was picked up nationally and had the tap dancer. That was a variety show.
That makes sense. Sure.
So the Betty White Show was a variety show.
Yeah, I was wondering about the Happy Homemaker thing
Yeah,
there.
that was. I kind of got them confused.
No, you're good.
I got them mixed up.
You're good.
And the cool thing about the Life was Elizabeth thing is
no matter what you do here, Rusty, you still have better information than I do. So we're good.
Well, this was like 2 days worth of watching Betty White stuff.
Yeah,
I tried not to use Wikipedia because anybody can go to look at Wikipedia, but it's really hard because it's really hard not to start there as a direction. But so the cool thing that I wanted to talk about Life with Elizabeth was it was the first. Not the first, but she was one of few women at that time frame that had entire control of a show in front of and behind of a camera. So that's what the significance
so she was
of
like
Life with
the
Elizabeth.
Producer of this.
Yeah,
thing.
she was everything. She was front and back. So there was actually a couple of writers for the Hollywood on Television show that go to that show with her.
Okay.
And they have it's called Bandy Production. They start a little production deal for that. I don't think that does anything else or anything in perpetuity. But they create this little. It's like Betty White and two writers create this deal, and then they produce the show together. But there were guys that she had already been working with in the industry with the Hollywood on television thing.
Sounds familiar, huh?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
It does sound familiar.
Yeah.
There's a lot of it. There's a lot of this. So we get to the cool thing about the KCOP that I wanted to tell you about the radio, the TV channel. There's a young man in the 60s on this, he's doing fill-in stuff, and he goes by the name of Regis Philbin. So she bumps into Regis at KCOP. Leonard Nimoy also does some stuff here in his early on in his career.
Yeah.
So again, as we just throughout our repertoire of podcasts, we discuss comedy intersecting, and it's not even a web anymore. It's more like a cesspool.
It's
at
crazy,
this point.
right?
Yeah, and it's just crazy to see how, and I guess it has to do with network television only having 3 channels in that time frame.
Sure.
But there's so much melding.
Well, it's like when you found a talent, you squeezed everything you could out of them.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, one cool TV fact, I guess, about KCOP as well is they were some of the first programs that they had were from, they weren't from ABC or NBC or CBS. They were from some weird named company. I can't even, it's like, oh, man, I wish I knew the name of it.
It was another network?
There was another network, and it was an experimental network. I don't think it was one that ever survived.
Yeah.
Let me look it up real fast. Dumont Television Network. Dumont Television Network in 49.
Okay,
That was one of the ones. Because I was looking at a lot, like doing all this research, you can't help but do like television, like researching TV itself.
Dumont was one of the original
That was one of them, That was one of the original. So they had...
Dumont.
Originally started with Dumont. That was what they were airing is Dumont stuff, and then Betty White made KCOP pretty much. So
wow.
Wait, did you ever wonder how all this happened? How you can turn that knob and enjoy a dramatic show, laugh at a comedian, watch the ball game, or hear and see news anywhere in the world? Well, it's quite a story, the story of television. The important part of it really began not so long ago, back in 1931 to be exact. And it began just as most big stories usually do, with one man who had a vision. That man was Alan B. Dumont.
With our early shows,
there
like
was no
Hollywood
Fox
television.
or anything like that at this time. There wasn't anything like that. Yeah, it was ABC, CBS, NBC, and Dumont, I guess.
Yeah, well, there was a couple of them. There was a few of these fledgling little TV companies. There was a handful or more.
Yeah.
Because you had a lot of which you don't really see so much today, and you don't really have them as revered as they were back in those days, like inventors and stuff like that.
Right.
You don't really see like invention on the same way that we used to see. Like you had the Thomas Edison, Nikola Tesla. You don't have these prolific
now
kind
you
of
have
figures.
Shark Tank, and they make ways to peel a banana.
Yeah.
Sure, that's right.
Well, inventions are all about convenience. So.
I was literally watching, and I'm sorry, this is the complete.
No, you're good.
I was
You're
literally
good.
watching Shark Tank not long ago, and they had a thing where you.
Are you me like in the future?
Yeah.
Everything you watch,
right.
everything you consume
what it is.
literally what everything I watch and consume.
Get ready to have that hip replaced, Rusty. I was watching it, and they had a banana corer. So you stick it in, and it takes out the middle of your banana so that you can squirt Nutella into it. That's its only purpose.
It cores a banana to fill the banana
so you can fill it with something.
Nutella.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah. God bless America.
What will they think of next? That kind of brings me to another point. There was this really depressing, it was a picture in an Irish grocery store, and it said the American section.
Oh.
And literally, it's just high fructose corn syrup.
High fructose corn syrup and wrapped American cheese.
Yes,
slices.
it was like, they had like Twinkies, they had like canned hot dogs. Like hot dogs
canned
in a
hot
can,
dogs.
like we eat canned hot dogs. It was funny because it was like, I guess it was made by an Irish company because it was like in this container with like a pop top on it, and it said "Taste of America," and it was just a can of breaded hot dogs too. They actually had bread on the hot dog in the can.
Oh no!
It wasn't just hot dogs in a can. It was breaded hot dogs in a can that you pull out.
Wait a minute. We gotta fix something here. Is it hot dogs in a bun, or was it breaded hot dogs?
Oh. Well, that's a corn dog.
That's what I'm saying.
No, it was hot dogs in a bun in a can.
Oh my God, how gross!
Which is more disgusting than breaded hot dogs in a can.
It really is. I would take breaded hot dogs in a can.
I would take breaded hot dogs in a can.
A pre-prepared hot dog shoved in a can.
In a can. I wonder if it comes with the relish and.
Most of the time, you find hot dogs in the refrigerated section of your grocery store, and then if you go on a picnic, you have to lug around a big bulky cooler to keep them cold and from spoiling in the brutal summertime heat. But fear no more about spoiling hot dogs or lugging around a big bulky cooler. Thanks to ye old oak American hot dogs in a can that need no refrigeration. At first, hot dogs in a can sounded really weird to me. That wasn't until I remembered Vienna sausages. Or if you're from the South like I am, you call them Vienna weenies, which come in a can. So it's not really that weird.
I don't know. That's gross, and I don't like it at all.
Taste of America.
Yeah,
there you go.
That is America.
Canned chicken. All right.
Trump and canned hot dogs.
Yeah. There you go. So around this time, she meets Lucille Ball as well. So they become great friends, which is one of her great Hollywood friendships.
Lucille Ball was something else.
Yeah, she was, which I kind of feel for Betty White because you got to think, living as long as she lived, she outlived probably every friend.
She really did, yeah.
Every friend, every colleague. I mean, not every, but the majority of everybody, especially from the Golden Girls. She outlived everybody from that show, for sure.
That's why I've always said I don't want to live forever. You know what I mean? I mean, not that it's an option or anything.
No,
I'm
it's
just saying.
Well, not yet.
It's one of those things. Don't cut off my head and freeze it. I'm good. Thank you.
Well, no, they might have some kind of Matrix type deal where you can upload your consciousness into the internet, and they have like a realm that your consciousness would exist in.
Nope, I'm good. Thanks.
Okay, I'm good too. Actually,
I'm gonna make it another 3-4 years, and then I'm done.
Okay. Well, I need to give me at least like 8 so we can get through this podcast.
All right, you got it.
So the 60s happens. And
Hang
of
on,
course,
I got to mark something off my calendar.
There you
All
go.
right, ahead.
So the 60s rolls around, and this is where she kind of just does her own thing. She becomes a game show and late night mainstay.
Man, she was on every game show ever. I mean, just all of a sudden, Betty White appeared. And it was true for a lot of these folks at this time, but game shows were the way they made their nut. I mean, you want a paycheck, go to a game show.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it didn't hurt that soon she's going to meet Alan Ludden. And
very soon.
Yeah, and that will introduce her to the entire game show world.
Yeah, so she guests on just about everything you can think of, like you said. The one that she did a lot of was Password. She did that between 61 and 75, which is where she would meet Alan Ludden at.
The secret word is halitosis. Yeah, that's Password right there.
Yeah, see, I need to go back and watch some Password. It's probably funny. It probably really is. I need to go back and check out some of that stuff.
Yeah, basically they would just come up with a word, and the announcer would tell you what it was.
And then again, for the comedy podcast, we should have like an episode or episodes where we do like a month of game show.
Game shows should absolutely play a part in comedy. Yeah, absolutely.
So
Match Game.
Yeah, Match Game. Well, I really appreciated the Bob Barker's wit. I really did. Like a lot of people, that's underrated, I think. And then even Pat Sajak, I think he's a little wild as far as game show hosts go. But
have you ever seen anything on his late night show that he had?
He had a late night show?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Pat Sajak.
Like an after hours show?
He left Wheel of Fortune to start a late night show in that whole crowded area with Joan Rivers and the whole thing.
Oh, so like around the Joan Rivers, so like the 80s.
It's about that time, yeah. And that's when, what's his name? 2 and 2 from Chuck Woolery.
Okay.
That's when he comes in and hosts the Wheel of Fortune for a while, and then Pat Sajak comes back.
Yeah, I was watching some of that stuff last night, like the late night stuff. I was more focused on looking at the Craig Kilborn.
Sure. Pat Sajak went down way faster
I'm gonna have to check
than
that
Joan
out.
Rivers
There's
did.
got to be like something to that I can watch.
Yeah.
I'm gonna look that up.
Yeah.
So she meets Alan Ludden, of course, around
I'm
this
so
time. glad
to add these little tips for you. I
yeah,
feel like
yeah,
I'm
it's awesome.
contributing.
You are contributing. You're giving me something to go watch later because I don't have enough to watch already as it is.
You need more.
I need more. Give me more. Yeah. So 62. Before she marries Alan in 63, she gets her feature film debut.
Okay.
Advise and Consent. Ever seen it?
No.
So she plays a strong female role as a senator. So it's like a politics kind of thing.
Wow.
Which I thought was kind of...
That's kind of groundbreaking for that time.
For that time and for her, period.
Well, just playing a woman senator.
A woman senator.
That was a
in
big
the
deal.
60s. Yeah, I'm sure that was a huge deal. Yeah, absolutely.
One more thing to add to the most unfair hearing in the history of the Senate.
Mr. President, will the senator yield for a question?
Will the senator yield for a question? I'll yield to the senator from Kansas.
Mr. President, I must admit I'm not a supporter of Mr. Leffingwell, but I watched the hearing on television and it seemed eminently fair to me.
Mr. President, I'm sorry if the senator from Kansas was not perceptive enough to grasp what was obvious. I am telling the Senate exactly what happened.
As much as I appreciate hearing about the senator's particular view, I am constrained to say I will need more substantial proof than the senator's personal description.
Mr. President, is the senator calling me a liar?
The record must stand as it is, Mr. President. How the senator interprets that record is his own problem, not mine.
Mr. President, I'm sure the senator from Kansas is welcome to take advantage.
So in all of this, there's another intersection. It's a neat one. Her and Barbara Walters kind of intersect here.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so NBC actually offered her a job, an anchor job on the Today Show. They offered Betty White what would end up being Barbara Walters' position.
Yeah.
So she could have derailed Barbara Walters' career.
I can definitely see Betty White as a talking head like that.
Yeah, I could see her. I see her more on something kind of like a panel, kind of like The View or something, though. Like,
but the Today Show is kind of like that. You know,
at
least you had somebody else.
Well, and that's the thing is that's what the Today Show was. It's intentional. Like its first intent was to be a Tonight Show for the morning.
Right.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a little toned down,
right.
but it was still supposed to be, fairly humorous, which is why you would say, "Hey, Betty, I want to offer you this job."
They still had the weather and they still had the news and all that stuff.
Yeah, Al Roker. Right? Was he on the Today Show?
Al Roker was, I guess. Is that today? Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. I like him too, though. Al Roker's another guy that I like.
He's weird to look at, though.
Yeah,
Skinny now.
Yeah, well, I like the heavier. Yeah, I like the heavier Roker myself. Yeah. So
who was the guy before Al Roker?
Oh,
the guy that
you wouldn't have said it, I'd know because I love weather.
He would congratulate everybody when they turned 100, and it was always sponsored by Smuckers.
Yeah.
With a name like Smuckers, it's got to be good.
Yeah.
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 That's right.
Yeah. Well, man,
Yeah.
if you wouldn't have asked, I would have known because I know weather. I
okay.
really like weather. My favorite deal. See, when I
really like weather.
Yeah, I do. I love like I'm a weather enthusiast.
I'm a weather file.
Yeah, I mean, any major weather events, I always I follow all the weather data for it and everything.
Okay.
Yeah. Hurricanes, all that stuff. I'll track it from when it's nothing to when it's blowing someone's door down.
So something I talked about yesterday. Do you know about the Waffle House Index?
Yes.
Like how FEMA
Absolutely.
follows the Waffle House?
The FEMA follows the Waffle House. If a Waffle House shuts down, you better leave.
That's right.
That's for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
You were the first one I've talked to that knew about that.
Yeah, no, if Waffle House shuts down anywhere, like that's an indicator you need to get the hell out of Dodge quick.
There's a great episode of, I think it's Freakonomics, but it may be this other podcast I listen to about brand names. But all they do is talk about the Waffle House Index, and how FEMA
no, it's a real thing. FEMA actually uses that.
Fantastic.
Well, it's a business model that Waffle House uses, and they
just don't close.
They don't close,
Ever.
and if they do close, well, that's the thing though. They take care of their employees
They
for
absolutely
those
do.
kind of situations. So it's not like they're just leaving people high and dry in the middle of nowhere.
They handcuff them to the grill.
Yeah, you
and
can't
get
leave.
Out. That's right.
Can't leave. Okay, so
Sorry, that was a real detour there.
Yeah, no, I don't mind detours. Oh yeah, so we're still on a detour.
Okay.
So back to weather. So in England, one of the weather guys that when I was a kid, I used to love watching it. What it is he would be on like a pond, and there would be like he would be standing on the British Isles, which would be floating in this pond.
Yeah.
And he would like be, it would be like Scotland. They would all kind of be floating on their own. You'd have like Scotland, Wales, and they would all be like little islands. And he would hop from each one while he was talking, and you could go and look up a compilation. I'll send you a compilation of them falling in the water.
Oh,
so that's what I would do. I would sit there and watch it every day. I'm
Just
like, come on,
waiting
just
for the
fall
dude
in,
to
hit
fall
the
in the
water,
water.
hit the water. And of course, anytime you wanted it would never happen. It would be
That's
whenever
great.
you were like, oh, well, I'm not going to watch it today.
Yeah.
And then boom, my mom would be like, oh, he fell in the water today. You missed it. I'd be like, oh, man, I was in school. Yeah, so that was one of my
really
favorite things on British television.
It's the little things.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it was comedy. It was humorous to me. It was
true.
funny. So she turns down Today Show based on the fact that she doesn't want to relocate to New York. She likes sunny California, and of course NBC wanted her to go to 30 Rock and do the Today Show, whatever it was called at that time,
Right.
and do the Today Show. Yeah, the Yesterday Show, the Tomorrow Show. So
That was Tom Snyder, right?
Tomorrow Show?
It was Tomorrow. Yeah.
Tomorrow. It was Tom Snyder.
Yeah.
Poor guy. Yeah, he got aged out. He got aged
he
out in a
did.
terrible way.
Yeah, he did.
That's what I was doing research on last night when I was it kind of just segued into like late night stuff.
Yeah, sure.
And I was kind of curious about Craig Kilborn because I had never really experienced Craig Kilborn on late night. I never watched any of that around that time frame because I wasn't really into Craig Kilborn, I guess.
Yeah.
But I couldn't place who he was, his face or anything. I knew the name. I started looking him up and I quickly realized who he was. And I was like, this guy was not funny. Like, how did he even get to where he was like, he could have been David Letterman's replacement?
Yeah, he was one of those slick guys. He always reminded me of like a sports guy.
Well, that's what he was first. He did
that's what I'm
ESPN.
saying.
That's how he segued into everything was through
yeah.
ESPN.
I could never get that taste out of my mouth as far as like him being a sports guy.
Like Oberman.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they're both
Yeah, like
they're both
Keith
kind of
Oberman.
witty,
Yeah.
but they're
Yeah.
witty in a sports world. I mean, sports comedy. There you go. That's a thing.
That's a whole different,
That's a thing. So we're in the 60s with her right now, and like I said, she's just bouncing around game show late nights. Around this time, she also does 19 years as the hostess of the Rose Parade.
19 years.
Yeah,
Oh my
so she
God.
did 19 years of that, and she was kind of upset because she got replaced in 75. So
Right.
she did it for 19 years for him.
It's just like coming home for the holidays to be back in New York once more.
It's the 10th time around for you and for me.
And there's no other place that we would rather be than back in New York for the holidays.
Everything about it I adore. The window shopping and the Santa Claus brigade.
The happy Thanksgiving that Macy's has made. There's lots of nice cities, but I wouldn't trade them for New York and the Macy's parade. So let the whistle blow, let the sirens roar. We're back in New York once more.
So do the math on that. You know, if she started in, if she ended in 75, she'd been doing it since the 50s.
Right.
So she's been doing this for. She's the Rose. If you're a kid at this time,
she is the Rose.
And you're you're an adult now. Like that's who the Rose Parade is to you, is her. So she gets replaced, and I imagine it's probably an age thing at this time. They want someone younger and prettier, and she's what? This is the 70s, so she's pushing 40s,
right?
Mid 40s at this point.
Right. She's in that mom category now. She's not the
she's the hot mom next door,
cute little
not
girl
the,
bopping around.
Yeah, not the girl next door anymore.
Sure.
So shortly, this is where she does Mary Tyler in the 70s. She does the
Mary
Tyler Moore,
Yep.
and that was a big thing for her. She played Sue Ann
Nevins.
Nevins, not
the
Bivens,
Happy
Nevins.
Homemaker.
The Happy Homemaker, who was kind of wild too, wasn't she?
The crazy thing about it is if you look at her career, you know, she's had she's had a ton, but the two big things that stand out are Mary Tyler Moore and the Golden Girls. And she was absolute opposites on those two shows.
Yeah.
So on Mary Tyler Moore, yes, she did a cooking show or whatever called The Happy Homemaker on this TV station that they all worked for. But she was a big slut, I want to say.
Sex
Maybe
addict.
that's a bad...
No, slut, that's all right. I mean, that's politically correct to use.
She was she was all over any
She
of
even
the men.
says it herself in some of the stuff. She played a whore. That's literally what she says. She played a woman that liked men.
Yeah, she was all over men all the time, you know, all that stuff. And then on Golden Girls, she was just the opposite. You know, she was naive and she was, you know, all of that stuff.
Yeah. It was definitely two different feels.
Hi, people. Isn't it simply beautiful out there? I mean, snow always inspires such awe in me. Just consider one single snowflake alone. So delicate, so fragile, so ethereal. And yet, let a billion of them come together through the majestic force of nature. They can screw up a whole city.
So,
she was fantastic on the Mary Tyler Moore show, though.
Yeah. I mean,
she's one of those
really funny.
She's one of those people that
I did watch some of that.
If you watched her, and this is going to come out weird, but if you watched her all the time, maybe it'd be a little too much. It's kind of like saying Letterman would be okay being on 5 hours a day. That's not what you want.
No, it's too
you
much.
want little doses
it's
of
saturated,
Letterman.
yeah. It'd
you
be
want little doses.
oversaturated.
And so when Sue Ann Nevins would come in the room, it was a big deal. It was like Kramer coming in the room on Seinfeld.
Yeah,
or something like
that's what I was kind of reading too, because it wasn't like she was on every day, all day long on the Mary Tyler Moore. It would just be like an episode.
Like, boom, the door's
episode,
open. Here's
boom.
Sue Ann.
Yeah, which is awesome. I like that.
Oh, she was great.
Yeah. So around the 60s, we'll stay in the 60s for a second before we full blow into the 70s. So in the 60s, this is where Alan Ludden.
Yeah.
Alan Ludden and Betty White are doing a tour for something at this point. They're doing some kind of tour. Boom, they end up in a little place in Indiana.
Okay.
Well, not little, but it is little if you're in it, if you're not in Indiana and it's little. But Indianapolis at a radio show with the host, Dave Letterman.
Alan Ludden goes on and interviews with David Letterman.
Yep. And he takes
college
Betty with
radio
him.
at this time, right?
No, he's actually at this time he's a known broadcaster.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
This is the very late 60s, early 70s.
Okay.
So yeah, he's already doing local broadcasting at this time.
Right.
And even when he was in college, though,
this is like
he was still doing regular TV in college.
Oh, okay.
Outside, he was doing stuff outside of what was pertaining to his college. He was doing like internship type stuff.
Oh, okay.
So whenever he left college, he already had a job with
that I
these
didn't
TV
realize.
networks.
Okay.
Yeah. So he was already working while he was in college, taking whatever he could get. It was kind of like the radio in town, and you go and you bug them until they give you something to do, whether it's mopping the floor or whatever. You're just trying to get in the door kind of thing. And that's kind of where he was at. He was just doing, and not mopping floors, obviously. That was something he never did, but I doubt he probably never. I bet you Dave Letterman, I bet he probably only a handful of times in his life has probably swept and mopped the floor. I'm gonna go. That's probably
You're
safe
gonna go out
to
on
say.
a limb for that.
Well,
right?
I mean, you got to think these guys. The way I see these comedy flop houses, I don't see them as like, they got a nice settee over here and a nice coffee table.
No. There's a lot of old pizza boxes.
Beer. Probably probably not even a mattress on the floor. It's probably a blanket and a pillow on the floor. That's how kind of vibe I get from that kind of thing.
Stack them 3 deep.
Yeah. So they meet each other. This is where they meet, and then we'll go ahead and I guess finish off Betty White's career. So Betty White, in '75, she was replaced as the Rose Parade announcer. Well, CBS gives her a 10-year run as the Thanksgiving Day Parade announcer in.
So
70,
she went from 19 years of the Rose Bowl parade to 10 more years of the Thanksgiving Day parade.
Yeah, for CBS for the Macy's parade, which is pretty awesome, I think.
That's a hell of a gig.
Yeah, that's a hell of a gig. And out of all of that stuff, boom, the Betty White Show appears again.
Yeah.
So she gets this is the 4th rendition of the Betty White Show, but this one is a sitcom, not a variety show.
Gotcha.
So this is where she gets to do her own thing. But again, she gets screwed by time slot. She got screwed by a time slot. They put her in the same time slot as, at this time, is way more of an institution than I think it is nowadays, Monday Night Football.
Oh, yeah.
So you're thinking 77 Monday Night Football.
Yeah.
You're talking about
you're talking
John
Howard
Madden.
Cosell. You're talking about Howard Cosell.
Howard Cosell. I'm talking about coaches and stuff like that too. Just the people to watch
Madden,
at this
I guess,
time frame.
is coaching at that time.
Yeah, he's for the Raiders.
Yeah.
But just think of like the prolific people in football to watch at that time. I think Tom Landry was still out there.
Oh, yeah.
In the
Yeah,
70s.
absolutely.
I mean, you had all these huge, prolific people in football to watch.
Well, Monday Night Football also was kind of a national thing where at Monday night at 7 o'clock you stopped, or 7 o'clock our time, you stopped and you watched Monday Night Football. It didn't really matter who was playing. If it was your team, great. If not, again, this is a time with 3 networks.
Yeah.
So that one network killed everybody else.
Whatever's in that time slot, whoever's got the Monday night game.
Didn't matter. Didn't matter.
Well, back then, how did it work though for like sports rights? Like, did one channel have the rights to Monday Night Football?
Yes, ABC owned Monday Night Football.
Well,
That's all there was to it.
They still own it too.
Well, and now
they own
now
everything.
it's on ESPN because Disney owns it and all that stuff.
And Disney owns ABC, Fox. I mean, I don't understand how
they don't own Fox, but they own ABC.
No, they own Fox now. Disney owns 20th Century Fox.
Oh, I guess they do because
they bought Fox.
They bought The Simpsons. Yeah,
they bought The Simpsons.
Oh man, that's weird.
It is like as far as monopolies go, as far as like media monopolies, I don't understand how Disney could continue to hold everything they hold, because I know how they do it. Disney's here, and then they got 1,000 other companies. But as far as like that not being broken up, I don't understand how that can exist.
It's like Unilever. It's one of the 5 companies that owns everything in the world. Or whatever, that makes all the shampoo. And
they own, like, if you look at the umbrella for Disney, it's huge as far as like as media conglomerate goes.
And I was reading a thing the other day. They said that there's a reason that Disney had thought about buying Sony because of the problems they're having with the Marvel characters and stuff.
Oh, wow.
But they can't because of monopoly laws.
Yeah.
So that's the thing that would put them over is buying Sony.
So if they bought Sony, that puts them over the edge. Not having...
it's not that they don't have the money to do it. They
have the money.
Yeah, they could do it in a heartbeat, but they can't because of the monopoly laws. Yeah.
That's weird. I don't understand how... It's like, oh, you can have but you can't have Sony. That's too much. Sorry,
that's too many.
That's pushing it.
Yeah.
You own half the TV networks.
You can own all of Star Wars, all of Marvel, all of...
What's half of... If there's 4 TV networks, like main broadcast networks... They own 2 of them, of the 4. So they own half of television. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So...
And Disney was like almost bankrupt,
Yeah, Disney was borderline.
In the 90s, they were
borderline. And that's a Paul Schaefer connection. Paul Schaefer with one of the guys that he worked with, I want to say it's Steven Schwartz.
Okay.
Maybe. But either way it goes, one of the guys that he actually worked with was he ended up doing helping revive the Disney in the 90s.
Really?
He did the music for I got it down here somewhere. No, I don't. But he did music for a bunch of stuff.
We just have these pages
filled
everywhere
with notes.
full of stuff.
But yeah, he did.
Well, we'll get to the Paul Schaefer episode.
Yeah.
That's what we were actually going to do today, and then Betty White passed, and so we
had to do Betty White.
Homage.
Yeah, we had to pay homage to her.
Yeah.
So we're in the 70s now, and that show gets killed in the time slot, Monday Night Football, and then she does a bunch of stuff. Carol Burnett, Johnny Carson,
Right, sure.
and
she was a TV staple.
That's where your information comes in. We're in the 80s now, so
you're going to leave the 80s up to me.
I'm leaving the 80s up to you. Okay. Yeah, you were a teenager in the 80s, right?
Yeah, thanks for that. So yeah, they you can't really talk about the 80s without talking about the Golden Girls. I mean, as far as TV goes, it was a huge show, and it was so weird. It came out of left field because it was 4 or 5 old ladies. You know?
Yeah, that's what I always
It's
thought was funny
crazy.
about it, because I've caught some episodes of it over the years and stuff. I
It's a
used to
great
watch a lot
show.
of TV Land,
It's a great
and it's
show.
really funny. Just
It's
having 4 old biddies, and you're looking at
yeah,
you know, the single life for 4 old biddies.
Yeah, it
And
was
I
a
think it's
fantastic
funny.
show.
It's
Great
funny.
show.
We couldn't pass a horse without Charlie saying, "Can I show you something in an Oxford?" And then he'd laugh, and I'd laugh. Sometimes even the horse would laugh. I mean, I was the one who thought up big squeaky toys for cows. By the time I got to high school, the kids had made up this really mean nickname for me just because I had hairy legs. What'd they call you? Rose with the hairy legs.
Nothing better than Betty White and who was the tall one?
B. Arthur?
B. Arthur battling each other. I mean, that's just fantastic. You
Yeah,
know, and then
no,
you
it
throw
is.
Estelle Getty in there and the other one. I feel like that's how people talk about Sex and the City too. Like talk about the 3 characters.
Well,
and
that's
then
what it
the
reminds
other
me
one.
of. That's
Yeah.
what it reminds me of.
It kind of is.
It's like
yeah,
an early
yeah.
Sex of the City,
Yeah.
because the Sex of the City is more like
It's a flash forward.
It's more like right before Senior Citizen. It's like
Mhm.
women in their like 40s. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And then
Yeah.
boom, Golden Girls is. I don't know. I thought it was a unique show. It was really
Menopause. Boom.
It was unique because that perspective had never been shown. I don't
Yeah.
think on TV before. The perspective of old single ladies.
Yeah, no, and if you look at TV today, they keep trying to pull that same show off.
Yeah,
there's-
they've tried to a few times. There's a couple of them shows. There's one. There's one with.
There's one on now called Be Positive.
Be Positive. Yeah.
Yeah, with Middle Ditch.
There's one called
Thomas
Frankie
Middleditch.
and something.
Yeah.
There's a woman
That's
show.
that Netflix
Grace and
one.
Frankie.
Yeah.
Grace and Frankie or something like that.
But they keep trying to pull off that Golden Girls model, and you're just
Yeah.
never going to do it because it was lightning in a jar. I mean, you got the right
was.
people, right time, right writers, everything.
Yeah, and that's a big thing for any television program. Really is right place, right time, right people.
Yeah,
You got to have the puzzle
absolutely.
and all the pieces to go with it properly. You know, you can't miss
Absolutely.
any piece to the puzzle for it to like fire off properly.
Yeah, that's what scares
Yeah.
me about TV today. There's no. It seems like there's no plan.
No,
You know,
it's not.
Just throw anything
It's
at
a
a
free
wall.
for all. Well, people become too enamored with other people's lives,
Mhm.
where TV used to be television. You know, where now we got cameras and we got this fake
How are all
sense
the,
of
how are all the people from Jersey Shore still alive?
how are all the people from Jersey Shore still getting paid by
Well, that's
anything?
what I'm saying. My wife and I had the TV on the other day, and it generally, we're on our phones or whatever, and we got The Office playing in the background
Yeah.
or whatever. And when you do that, it's on like Comedy Central. There's only like 5 commercials, right? And they just show the same
5 commercials
over and over.
And if you're watching Comedy Central, it's probably the same 3 TV shows over
is.
and over.
And
if you're watching MTV right now, MTV is literally just Rob Dyrdek. It
Yeah.
should be called the Rob Dyrdek Variety Hour or show or channel
Sure.
or whatever,
Yeah.
because all they play is that React show he has.
Yeah. Idiocracy or whatever. No, it's not that.
No, it's
something
not.
else. But
I mean, it
anyway,
might as well be called that, because that's
Yeah.
pretty much what it is.
It is
He's
Al My
smart.
Balls.
I will give Rob Dyrdek all the props for
It's-
that, because he secured a huge amount of money for that.
I'm gonna give props to Mike Judge one more time, because Rob Dyrdek's show is Al My Balls that they're watching in Idiocracy.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Yeah. That's
all-
absolutely what it is.
that's
It's
all it
out my
is.
balls. And that's what's so funny about it is there's a lot of synchronicity with idiocracy in a lot of things you see in today's society like that. Like that React show he has is literally on
just
MTV 26 of 24 hours a day.
So we were 26 out of 24. We had that on in the background, right? Because we took a couple of days off for holidays and stuff, and the same commercial for the Jersey Shore reunion kept coming on over and over and over. And if it wasn't that, it was Teen Mom 2 reunion.
You know what
show.
that is? You know what that is? You know what's really funny about that?
Garbage.
You know why all those things are resurfacing?
Why?
Because my generation were teenagers.
Yeah, I guess so.
And now we're all in our 30s, and it's like this bit of nostalgia. You're like, oh, you remember that shitty TV show we used to watch when we were teenagers?
There was one for Real World reunion.
That also is a show that
my God.
influenced. I mean,
Yeah.
that came out in the 80s, even,
Yeah.
didn't it? That came out
Yeah.
in the late 80s. So yeah,
90s, I think.
90s.
But yeah.
Well, that was a show that influenced, I think, a lot of like the way reality TV and stuff is nowadays.
Yeah, thank you, MTV, for adding to the garbage pile.
They
We
ruined
appreciate it.
TV with the Real World.
So getting back to Betty White. You know, she did a lot of stuff in the time frame we're talking about. You know, 90s, it may have been 2000s. She did that movie about the alligators, Lake Placid, where she's the one that really is the problem. She's the one that keeps feeding the alligators and stuff. She's fantastic in that.
That is a fantastic role for her. That was really cool
It's a
because
good movie.
She plays like a creepy old lady.
Yeah.
Instead of
Just throwing
playing
those chickens out to the
the alligator. So instead of her playing like this sweet, innocent old lady, she's really like a sweet, seemingly innocent old lady who's really maniacal, who feeds this huge alligator all the time. It's like her pet.
She was almost going back to that Lou Ann Nivens, you know, or
Sue Ann Nivens.
Sue Ann Nivens. Sorry.
I haven't broken any laws.
Oh, but you have, ma'am. You lied to us. That could be obstruction of justice. A man has been killed in part because of your silence. I could make out a charge of reckless endangerment. And I'm sure Peter would be annoyed at how you treat your cows.
The reason I lied, if I told you the truth, you'd hunt it down and kill it, which seems to be exactly what you're trying to do.
How long have you been feeding this thing?
6 years.
6 years?
Well, Bernie was out fishing, and it followed him home. So we threw it some scraps. Well, he didn't seem to bother anybody. He became kind of like a pet who lives in the wild.
He just appeared. You have no idea how he arrived here.
No, do you?
Well, your husband burned you. You didn't by any chance lead him to the lake blindfolded.
If I had a dick, this is where I'd tell you to suck it.
But anyway, she did a lot of that kind of stuff during that time frame and up until the point she died. I mean, honestly, she was a staple in our lives until the day she died. I mean, because every time you turn around, she was on something.
Oh, absolutely. She transcended generations for sure.
Yeah.
She was there for 70 years in television.
And to bring it back to Letterman, you could tell when Betty was on his show that he absolutely loved this woman. I mean, she was a friend. Well, to steal words from the Golden Girls, she was a friend and a confidant. I mean, she was somebody that he gave credit to for his career, and he was eternally grateful to her. I watched one thing this morning, and it was Betty White doing a top 10 list. And this was the Letterman. This was Late Show, so CBS in a few of the later years, and just her timing, and just the fact that she's willing to get up and say some of the things that she said. You know, she didn't really question it. I mean,
she doesn't shy away from things either. Whereas somebody you would think somebody of her age and her stature would shy away from certain jokes or certain punches, you know, but she didn't pull none. She was always there.
Always there. The last thing on the list was this was Betty White's tips on how to live a long, happy life. And number one tip was stop watching this
tonight's
crap.
top 10 list, the lovely and talented Betty White. Betty, come on out and. Betty White, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much, Betty. The category, Betty White Tips for Living a Long and Happy Life. Here we go, number 10.
Get at least 8 hours of beauty sleep. 9 if you're ugly.
Doesn't hurt. Go that extra hour. Number 9.
Exercise. Or don't. What the hell do I care?
Doesn't make it either. You don't have a dog in this fight. Number 8.
Never apologize. It shows weakness.
That's right. Number 7.
The best way to earn a quick buck is a slip and fall lawsuit.
Number 6.
Avoid tweeting any photos of your private parts.
Number 6. Number 5.
Schedule a nightly appointment with Dr. Johnny Walker.
Yeah, buddy. Number 4.
Take some wheatgrass, soy paste, and carob. Toss in the garbage and cook yourself a big-ass piece of pork.
Number 3.
Try not to die.
Exactly.
Number 2.
Never dwell on past mistakes, especially you, LeBron.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And the number 1 Betty White tip for living a long and happy life.
Don't waste your time watching this crap.
Yeah.
That was just fantastic.
I think that's the episode where they sit down and drink vodka together.
It could be.
Yeah, because that's what one of the tips for a long life when someone asked her was vodka and hot dogs.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, I couldn't believe how many hot dogs. Bringing back to hot dogs in a can.
Yeah,
I doubt very seriously she had to eat a whole lot of hot dogs in a can.
But she probably would have.
Oh, maybe.
She loved hot dogs. She might have ate them. Maybe not breaded or bunned in a can.
I hope it says that on her
Epitaph,
tombstone.
yeah.
She loved hot dogs.
I hope so too. And they put a bottle of vodka right there with it.
She was fantastic. Well,
this is something that I wanted to add to it. So for me, for Betty White, it feels like even though she was 100, it feels like she's gone too soon.
Mm-hmm.
Even though she was 100
Yeah.
years old,
Yeah.
and it's the meme culture that really revived Betty White, and then it kind of was the viral Snickers campaign. That they did.
Forgot about that.
Well, I used to work for the company or whatever, and they had they had something that Betty White had like signed or something on the wall, and they also had a like the newspaper clipping from the Waco Tribune, which I thought was really weird to have it on the wall, but it was like Betty White, and it was all about the commercial and everything. So like she was that right there. I feel like those commercials are what brought her to the internet and the meme culture and stuff like that, because she's been memed a lot in positive ways, never in like a negative, trying to make fun of her meme.
Good luck finding something negative about Betty White.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah.
She was, an icon, beyond an icon.
She was an institution.
A TV god. If there's like a Mount Rushmore or a pantheon of TV gods, she would be at the top. She would definitely be top 5.
She is.
She was there at the experiment, like we were just discussing. She was literally a part of TV before TV was a part of us.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
yeah. She was one of the best.
Because TV is, it is a part of us.
Well, this is this is a podcast. If you've lost the thread here, this is a podcast about David Letterman.
David Letterman,
and the whole idea here was to pay homage to Betty White and Alan Ludden also.
Yeah, absolutely. Rest in peace. He's been dead a lot longer, but
he has.
Rest in peace.
But and how they were instrumental in getting
David
Letterman in front of our faces. Yeah,
very instrumental. And even David Letterman himself. Through all the interviews and stuff with Alan and Betty and stuff like that, he pays homage. He tips his hat. He gave him the flowers for sure. Even jokingly, if you watch a couple of the deals, there was one. It was
into
funny.
that top 10 list.
He into that top 10 list.
Thing of roses.
Yeah,
out
he
to
does.
her.
Yeah, he does. And then also on one of the interviews that he does with Alan, I don't think it's an interview. I think it's when Alan's doing a game show and he's talking to Dave, and he said, "Yeah, we found you out there in Indianapolis." And Dave said, "Yeah, my mother is the only licensed topless barber."
That's right. Yeah,
that's her claim to fame.
Yeah,
and
that was on one of the game shows.
Yeah, it was on one of the game
said
shows
that,
when he introduced him. So yeah, like you could see the rapport between the two of them for sure. And even when he brought Alan on to really just make fun of him, when Alan did his singing, like you could see Alan was like, "You brought me on here
well, he said
to
that.
make fun." Yeah, he says that. You brought me here. You're putting on.
Yeah.
You're putting on.
Yeah.
That's what he said. He's
But
putting
he
on
did it
in
anyway.
But he did it
So,
anyway.
yeah.
And he did it with a smile on his face,
That's right.
knowing that
That's right.
something he poured his heart into is about to be made fun of. Because Alan Ludden was really serious about the music thing.
He was, yeah.
Like, and he's.
And
When
it
he's
was
talking
awful.
to Dave,
Yeah.
he's telling him how serious this is. I was really serious about this, Dave.
Yeah, sure.
And then even after he passes, like he's already passed, and I want to say this was like the day of around, like the week of. Dave brings on. He's got 2 albums that have all the same music on them, of course.
Right.
One is Richard Chamberlain, and one is
Alan Ludden.
And he plays the Alan Ludden one for the crowd, and then of course they have the applause-o-meter, and then he plays the Richard Chamberlain from, which is
Same
obviously
song.
way
Same song.
better.
Yeah.
Same song, obviously way better. And he goes, "This one must be for the kids," and it was more like upbeat or whatever. And they did the applause-o-meter, and of course the crowd liked Richard Chamberlain's version better.
Well,
but it was funny.
The one I liked is during the daytime show. When he had the Alan Ludden album and he's sitting out in the crowd, right? And he goes, "All right, the first person to tell me they want this album gets to take it home with them."
Nobody said anything. Yeah, that was awesome. That was funny.
That was also one of those things where you're like, oh, here's the difference between that daytime show and the nighttime show. Because the nighttime show, it would have gotten, somebody would have taken that album.
Somebody would have took it, yeah.
Yeah. Well, God bless Betty White. God bless Alan Ludden. Thank you for the time you gave us in the laughs that you supplied.
Even though they're new laughs, old laughs, all laughs. Because I'm laughing for the first time at Alan Ludden.
Go back and watch some of that stuff. Look up Alan Ludden, look up Betty White, and look at those connections between them and Letterman and everybody else. There's just a ton of them. There's
a wealth of connections.
As we go down this road, we see more and more and more. And like you say, it's become this pool of people, not even really a spider web, not one of those serial killer wall things. They're so ingrained with each other.
And I can't wait till we get to like the comedy podcast part of everything and start to like really, really dive into that, because we can only do so much here because we're dissecting David Letterman.
Yeah, sure.
But once we get to dissect comedy
in general,
it'll be able to. I mean, that's going to be. Oh, I can't wait.
Yeah.
I really can't wait.
All right. Well, guys, join us next time on Wake the Kids, Phone the Neighbors, a Letterman tribute podcast. I've been Mike.
And I'm Rusty.
All right. We'll see you next time. Hey, guys. We recorded an episode of Wake the Kids, Phone the Neighbors, a Letterman tribute podcast, all about Betty White after her passing. And I think it was the next day I saw, both of us saw a story where her assistant talked about Betty's last moments.
Yes.
And she said that Betty's last words were Alan.
Absolutely.
Just said the name of her dead husband, Alan.
And
which is pretty damn cool. Honestly.
Yeah, I think the final words from the golden girl of TV being Alan. It really it was a true testament to a love that never died.
Absolutely. Yeah.
He died in the 80s, and she never remarried.
Nope.
And spoke of him often.
Absolutely.
And she had been married before she ever married him, but of course, she divorced those guys. So she ended up with Alan, and you could see it in their relationship. You could see it in their interviews when they were together on TV, and you could just see it in the game shows. Their back and forth on the game shows and everything. It was, it was definitely those being her last words. Really put the cherry on the top of a life of love.
Absolutely. Boy, you could tell they were and the weird thing is they were kind of a power couple,
extremely powerful couple.
But I don't feel like they were they didn't flaunt that. They didn't do any of that. They were just truly in love.
Betty White was never a flaunter.
No, she didn't have to. She was a power all of her own. And then we'd be remiss if we didn't mention that Bob Saget passed as well.
Absolutely. Rest in peace, Bob Saget.
Yeah. Bob Saget was one of those guys that I didn't know anything about until Full House came around. And I hated that show. Absolutely hated that show for its just stupidity.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was so vapid.
Yes, it's not a show I've ever watched.
Bad writing. I mean, I hated it. But seeing Bob Saget as a comedian hang out with other comedians is one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
Well, my first Bob Saget would be AFV, America's Funniest Home Videos.
Yeah, sure.
So I never watched Full House.
But even that, he was so restrained.
But yeah, he was restrained on there.
Yeah.
He was still funny, though. He was still funny on there, but not as funny, like you said. Once you watch his stand-up, and then Dirty Work was directed by him as well.
Dirty Work, one of the best movies that never gets any mention.
Yep, never gets any mention. But that was his actual directorial debut. That movie?
Norm Macdonald, just so many good people in it.
Yeah. Artie Lang,
so funny.
Yeah, it's a really great movie. Yeah. And that's just another testament to his career and his impact on comedy. And there's nobody you'd be remiss to find anybody that has anything negative to say about Bob Saget.
Yeah. And again, every time a celebrity passes, you think, oh God, drugs, bad stuff, whatever.
Sex, drugs, rock and roll.
And they said that there weren't any signs of any of that stuff.
Nope.
So, I guess it was just his time. Only 65 years old,
yep.
Which to me is right around the corner. So
yeah. And he, just didn't really seem to be in bad health or anything like that. And
yeah, we talked about
he
how
was relighting his career right now. He was in the
looked
middle
like
of
he was so fit and all that stuff. Yeah,
and he was in the middle of a career revival with this tour that he was doing, and he did like a test. This was what he was doing. The hotel they found him in, he was in the middle of doing like his trial run for a tour set for this year. So for 2022, he was about to go on tour for this year. So that's something that we're all gonna not get to experience. But
I think the best testament you can give to Bob Saget, and this is not the same for Betty White, but the best testament you can give for Bob Saget after his passing is I saw this morning that someone posted Bob Saget telling the Aristocrats joke. And that's what Bob Saget loved. He loved dirty humor. Yeah.
Well, the movie that he directed was called Dirty.
That's right.
Works.
That's right. Yeah. But anyway, we just wanted to add this to the end of this episode. God bless them both. They will be missed.
Absolutely. Rest in peace.
All right, guys. Join us again next time. Hey, thanks for joining us on Wake the Kids, Phone the Neighbors. I am Mike.
And I'm Rusty.
And join us next time for another episode of The Man from the City So Nice They Named It Twice.
Wake the Kids at roguemedianetwork.com.
Excellent. And we will see you next time.
At the David Letterman Tribute Podcast.
Okay, good enough.
Ladies and gentlemen, Wake the Kids, Phone the Neighbors.
RogueMediaNetwork.com.